Hello, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Superintendent Marianne O'Donnell, Morgan Principal Carrie Hymas, and the Morgan Political Club, welcome to tonight's 2018 Connecticut District 35 General Assembly and Connecticut District 33 Senate debates. I'm Caleb Adams-Holt, and this is Dan Radka. We will act as moderators for tonight's debates. Other student participants include Sarah Aletta and Ella Franzoni. At this time, I'd ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As for rules and format, the debates will begin with a 90-second opening statement from each of our participants. From here, we will ask the candidates a variety of district-related questions. These questions will allow the candidates 90 seconds to respond. At the end of the debate, each candidate will then have an opportunity to give a 90-second closing statement. While audience participation, such as applause, is permitted, we ask that you remain respectful to the candidates who graciously volunteered their time to come before you in an open and honest setting. The Morgan Political Club was founded in 2005 with a mission to provide students with a non-judgmental environment in which members can debate and explore opinions about political issues on the local, state, and national levels. All views are welcomed, all views are respected. We believe that the exchange of ideas is vital to a healthy and vibrant democracy. We also host events such as this, and we are excited and humbled to have the opportunity to facilitate open political discussion and debate within our school walls. Our questions will cover a large variety of topics, and we will ask that the candidates remain on message and sufficiently answer each question. If you have any specific questions for any one candidate, you can visit them after the debate in the lobby for an informal meet and greet. We would like to thank our candidates for coming tonight. And now, our first question from Caleb. Yeah, we actually have to do the opening statements. Whoa. All right. Oh, we're going to start with Mr. Adler. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries, it happens. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Morgan High School and the Political Club for hosting this event. Thanks as well to all those here who have supported my campaign, especially my mother, father, and two boys, Isaac and Tobias, who are members of the school system here in Clinton. You represent the best of who I am. I say a special thank you to my wife, Meredith, with whom I celebrate my 18th anniversary today. It's not the thank you. It's not the venue I would have chosen necessarily, but I promise you a more private venue next year. I love you. I stand before you today with a heavy heart. The horrific events of this past week make me fear for this country's future. My fear is born not just from the fact of facing domestic terrorism, but also stems from a political rhetoric that calls public servants greedy, while mega corporations cut jobs, let wages stagnate. A rhetoric that calls healthcare for all an impossible dream, but an unending war just business as usual. We are better than this. I believe it is possible to both be fiscally responsible while maintaining those core values that we hold dear. As a husband, father, student advocate, and educational leader, I believe I have the best abilities to strike that balance. We must heal our divisions and set our path forward as a state. I didn't realize you had those signs. This starts November 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Adler.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you very much for hosting this debate. One of the things that I find is extremely important is that we have an educated populace, which is why I have taken the opportunity to make my views known on such sites as Ballotpedia, Vote Smart, Connecticut News Junkie, and CCM. So if any of you have questions or would like further elaboration, please feel free to contact me directly or to look at those websites. I am an immigrant. I am an immigrant to Connecticut. I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, in a blue-collar family. And because of my parents' diligence and encouragement, their hard work and my hard work, I was able to win scholarships to college. So that when I moved here to Connecticut in 1979, I had a PhD in hand. And I am now in private practice as a forensic psychologist. So I understand some about what it is to run a small business. Since the time I moved to Connecticut, I have been concerned about increasing economic inequality, increasing climate change, and threats to turn back the clock regarding the hard-fought rights of women, workers, and small businesses.
Ms. Leveille, thank you. And Mr. MacLachlan?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Morgan Political Club for hosting this wonderful debate. My name is Jesse MacLachlan. It has been a tremendous honor to serve the 35th District for the last 4 years. When my family moved here, I was a young man, I think I'm 11 years old, and we experienced some tough times, but one thing that sticks out from my experiences as a young boy was the generosity and kindness that this district, this community showed me. And it's for that reason I feel a deep sense of gratitude to give back as your state rep. During my 4 years, I've been focused on proposing solutions to the problems that our state faces. An economy that's lagged behind the national average. Costs. The cost of living in the state has gone up, while companies and small businesses have found it hard to lay their roots here, and all the while we're experiencing ballooning unfunded liabilities. As your state representative, I have been committed to and will continue to propose solutions that make Connecticut a more affordable place for young people to find work, for families to buy their first home, and hopefully comfortably retire here in this beautiful state. Tonight I want to ask for your consideration as you go to the polls in November to put me back to work for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. MacLachlan. And now our first question from Caleb Adams.
So this first question is for Mr. Adler. Many people are leaving our state due to the high cost of living and few job opportunities. Last year, Connecticut experienced a population loss of 27,619 people, the fourth largest drop in the nation. What would you do to keep our population, especially recent college graduates, from leaving Connecticut, and what would you do to make people want to move to our state?
Thank you for the question. Well, one thing is our state is an amazing state and has a lot of resources and strengths that we can attract people to come here. The unfunded liabilities that the incumbent mentioned are our biggest problem. And the problem is it's been kicked down the road pretty much every year for decades. The current Congress has not done anything, which means the Supreme Assembly. We need to have folks up there who are willing to work across both party lines, but also across management and union lines. As a president of a school union out in Waterford, I've worked with administration to cut costs for the district while at the same time retaining those benefits and salaries that we need to keep our teachers able to live in the state. So that's one thing I bring to the table. For recent graduates, as a school counselor, I've helped many students get into college, but college costs have gone up far more than costs of living, far more than inflation. One idea that I would like to propose is allowing students who come into our state or who have gone to school in our state to write off their student interest, allowing them to take that off of their income tax and therefore have a stronger need to stay in state. We need to look at our really regressive property taxes. We need to rely more on local income taxes and allow municipalities to raise money individually. These are ways that we can raise money while at the same time attracting businesses and students to stay in the state.
Thank you, Mr. Adler. Ms. Leveille?
Thank you very much, Caleb. It's very difficult as a young person starting off, and it is particularly difficult now because of increasing student debt. The cost of attending UConn and Southern Connecticut and the community colleges is going up, and people are borrowing more and more, so that students are coming out with debt. They don't want to stay here for even college. They want to leave. We need to be able to provide education, because education is one of the hallmarks of Connecticut. It is why people come to Connecticut. We have an educated population and we have a committed workforce. We need to bring small businesses to the state. We need to encourage students and help them with mentorship to be able to start and find and collaborate with small businesses. In addition to that, we need to consider our tax system. Our tax system penalizes those of us who work. It allows people who are multimillionaires to pay much fewer taxes. In Connecticut, the top 1% in Connecticut makes $720,000 adjusted gross, and the top 0.1% makes almost $3 million.
Thank you very much. And Mr. MacLachlan.
Thank you. I don't know how many people here had a similar experience or similar learners that I am, but I'm a hands-on learner. I prefer to learn while doing, and I think we have an opportunity in this state to bring employers and students who learn better on the job together in the form of apprenticeships. We worked to propose an apprenticeship bill that would allow young people in high school to spend some time learning what it's like to get up and apply your trade, make deliverables to customers, and get a sense for what they actually like to do. And I think there's an opportunity there to allow young people key experience to figuring out what they want to do in the workforce, and on top of that, what jobs in the workforce will pay them enough to buy their own home. Will they be able to make, where are the jobs that will allow them to make a living? And I think there's a low-hanging fruit there. I think what we can also do is look at taxes that in our state that make us less competitive than our surrounding states. And I took action with a number of legislators to propose that we eliminate the sales tax on the marine-related trade, because Rhode Island doesn't have one. And folks are bringing their boats there instead of parking in the beautiful town of Clinton and Westbrook. We weren't able to eliminate it, but we were able to bring that sales tax down. And we have gotten calls from marina owners saying, listen, we're getting more folks parking here, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Our next question. Connecticut is faced with many environmental issues, including an unhealthy...
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Connecticut is faced with many environmental issues, including an unhealthy and polluted Long Island Sound, issues with brownfields or contaminated sites such as the Unilever factory here in Clinton, and a dependence on natural gas and petroleum. In your opinion, what is the #1 environmental issue facing your state, and what will you do to mitigate it?
I am, as a Green Party member, concerned about environmental sustainability. And I have organized in Clinton and educated in Clinton regarding environmental causes. I believe that the #1 environmental issue is concerning our beautiful shoreline and our inland waters. We need to protect those and make those viable. I have brought together people of all political persuasions to band together, to be educated, to oppose instituting a dump, a waste recycling center in the heart of Clinton's wetlands. And I will take that same type of ability to work together in concert with people of different political persuasions to provide policies that promote environmental fairness. We have an opportunity to be able to move to solar, to wind technology. I have specific proposals of moving the state in that direction, of encouraging municipal organizations to band together till we have cheaper electrical prices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leveille. Mr. MacLachlan.
Thank you for that question. As a disclaimer, I work in the solar energy industry because I care very passionately about making sure that we actually pass on a planet to the next generation where the air is breathable and the water is drinkable. And if any of you have read the recent report that's come out of the United Nations, we need to act swiftly and decisively in order to prevent global temperatures from rising 1.5 to 2 degrees. I would support, and it's been proposed, and I would support a goal of making Connecticut 100% renewable within a reasonable amount of time. I think we should act very swiftly to do that. I think you need to look at offshore wind. Massachusetts has been acting very quickly to leverage their shore for offshore wind. You're going to run into some municipal troubles. You can't trample on shoreline communities when you do that from a top-down approach. But where municipalities are willing to coordinate with the state, I think that's a great way to lower our carbon emissions. Listen, I think you need to look at ways to reduce plastic dumping in the waters. There's a recent company, a new startup, that just pioneered a large trash pickup off in the Indian Ocean. And they're going to be running all year, and that plastic's going to be sold and recycled to make new products. So I think there are a number of steps that we can take to make sure that our natural resources remain pristine for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MacLachlan. Mr. Adler.
So the question was, what is the greatest threat, or the thing we need to deal with here as a state? And the reality is, though both of the other individuals have mentioned some, the greatest threat is from our government. The Trump administration through the EPA is the greatest threat to the health of our children, the health of our environment, which of course are intertwined completely, and ourselves, our waterways, the ability to have recycling, to get some payback from the government when it comes to installing solar. These are all things seriously under threat, and we can't make believe that our small state, even if we control things within our area, is capable of protecting our environment. This is regional. Smokestacks from the Appalachian area impact us here. That is a federal issue. We need to make sure we elect those to Congress, the Assembly, as well as to the state positions that will stand up and fight against this EPA. In my mind, that does mean a Democratic Assembly, and certainly for our State Attorney General, Mr. Tom. We need, it shouldn't have to be political, but unfortunately in these times, as I said in my introduction, we need to be firm. There needs to be a strong blue wall, which is blue-green, to be able to protect us against what's going on in Washington. I do believe we can have bipartisan support to do that in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. Adler.
In addition to the very high-profile Aetna headquarters move to Boston, many smaller, well-established companies have also left our state after years of business. What would you do to keep business in Connecticut and make our state a more attractive place to start a business? Mr. MacLachlan.
Thank you for that question. The question is twofold. Let's take General Electric, for example. General Electric was in the headlines for leaving the state, moving their headquarters to Boston. And two primary example or reasons were cited for why they left. One was an unstable tax climate, an unpredictable budget climate. The company had really no idea whether taxes were going to go up or one year for the next due to the irresponsible spending of Hartford, number one. Number two was because they wanted to situate themselves in a pool of more well-trained human capital. And that stings. Hearing that stings, because I'm very proud of the young people and the universities that we host here in Connecticut. But we have to listen to what large employers are saying when they cite those types of reasons. What are they saying? They're saying we're looking for a broader pool of STEM graduates who can fill the high-tech positions that we are looking for. We want to be in an area, in a mosaic and a beehive of different companies, of different technologies. The owner of GE was looking forward to walking out of his door in Southie and being in the epicenter of technological breakthrough. Boston and the state of Massachusetts acted quicker. Unfortunately, they made deals with large companies to bring them there, and I think we need to make sure that we're competitive.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adler.
Yes. Well, it's been pretty clear. G has been quoted in several areas that it pretty much had nothing to do with taxes. They went to, as many people, my friends on the right say, Taxachusetts. They went because of a sweetheart deal, and they went because the transportation infrastructure allowed for a greater population of highly educated individuals to stay in state in the suburbs and get into the cities to work. We don't have that. Our train station still has yet to get its first refurbishment, and almost every other one on the shoreline has, and in fact, many of them are on their second edition. We don't have that yet in Clinton. We need to have high-speed rail that brings us into the cities and bring those in the cities out to the suburbs for work, for recreation, and we need that, and we need to invest. That means that some money has to come from somewhere. I have plans for that, which it does include tolls to get out-of-state people driving through our state to pay their fair share for fixing our roads and helping support our infrastructure. I have zero interest in giving sweetheart deals to billion-dollar corporations. They can pick up and move whenever they want. What we do need in the state, and I do believe there's a heck of a lot of bipartisan agreement on this, is to set stable and fair tax policy for those small and mid-sized businesses that are the heart and soul of the middle class and our communities. We need to lower their taxes so that they can stay in our communities as they would anyway, and hire our individuals. We need to make our schools the best, we have to make our transportation the best, and the businesses will come.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Leveille.
Thank you very much, Caleb. One of the concerns that I have is that we have 31% of our state budget is due to liabilities that both parties knew dating from the 1970s, 80s, and neither party, when in power, had the courage to start to address those liabilities. And I am concerned now, although my colleagues here, my opponents, are very noble men, and I like them. They are affiliated with parties who have persistently failed you. They have persistently failed you in either raising taxes, spending, and not addressing the hard issues. As a Green, I am not bound by party. I am not bound by political pacts or lobbying interest. I am bound to look at the facts. As a forensic psychologist, that is one thing that I do, is I gather data, I look at facts, and I make decisions not based on emotions, but looking for the long-term solutions. And we need now, as a state, to address those long-term solutions and not be held bound to Republicans or to
We're gonna have to
Democrats.
stop you there. Thank you.
As we know, Connecticut is facing a gubernatorial election coming up this November. The question for our participants is, what do you think that the next governor needs to accomplish? We're going to start. Did you guys understand the question? Do you want to repeat it? We're outside. Okay. Thank you. We're going to start with Mr. Adler. We are. Fair enough. That works.
Okay, so what does the next governor need to handle? I first want to just start with a quick rebuttal to my wonderful Green Party opponent. I'm not bound by politics. I negotiate a contract in Waterford that cut costs for the district, but maintain benefits and salaries for the teachers. So I just want to make sure that I'm the only one up here who actually has that experience. And unfortunately, in our power structure right now, if you are not affiliated with a party, you will not be in this position of power to make changes. So the great ideas that Madeleine does have, which I share many of, will not be able to be implemented. She has to, unfortunately, in our two-party system, has to attach herself to one of the two parties, and that's unfortunate but a fact. What the new new governors need to acknowledge is the fact that we do have an incredible pension problem in the state. And it's going to require all hands on deck, including unions, including the government, including business. There are some plans that are already out there that have been established for fiscal stability. We need to acknowledge them. The last legislature punted on one that they had done by some of the top CEOs in the state. We need to look at it. We need to vote on individual portions or it as a whole, and we need to have courage. I have very little interest in being a career politician. This, shockingly, isn't as fun as it looks. So I want to get in there, make changes for the betterment of everyone. I want to retire in the state and have my kids hopefully retire near me, though they probably don't want to.
Thank you, Mr. Adler. Ms. Leveille?
It's going to be a daunting task for whoever is the governor. The governor is going to have to make some very hard decisions and not do what has been done for the past 30 years, which is kick problems down the road. We have to find solutions to our liabilities. And we can't, and one of the things that we're concerned with is we don't want to tax people out of the state. But let's look at the taxes. Who really does leave Connecticut? The polls from the Yankee Institute, a very conservative think tank, said that recently, the people who left the state, on average, earned $192,000. I don't know about you, but I don't think that is rich. They may be comfortable, but they are not rich. And if we dig down deeper, we find that the people who actually leave the state are those people earning between $15,000 and $50,000. Those are our young people and our people who are in the ALICE category. And the other group that leaves are retirees. And this is a demographic issue. This is not necessarily a political issue. People who are older, as am I, like warmer weather.
Thank you, Ms. Leveille.
Thank you for the question. Oh man. The next governor of Connecticut has a very difficult job, and I'm glad I'm not that guy. But I am very much looking forward to being in the legislature, proposing solutions to the issue of affordability, which is what I hear unquestionably as the largest issue facing residents in this beautiful state. Can't afford home heating oil. Our children have graduated college and they're living at home because they can't find a job, they can't afford to buy their first home, let alone rent. And in order to make the state a more affordable place, you have to get at the root of the issue financially, which is an out-of-control, unfunded liability problem. The next governor of the state of Connecticut is going to need to reach across to our partners in labor and figure out a way to create a more sustainable retirement fund for future incoming employees. We need to look at what the private sector does in the form of defined contribution matching 401ks to make sure that at the end of a hard and illustrious career, there's actually enough money to retire. Right now, my grandmother, she lives in Massachusetts, and she's telling me how, due to the rising property taxes and her fixed income, she's running net negative month to month. It's not a sustainable way for us to treat the folks that raised us, our seniors living on fixed income. We need to get a hold of this as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obama. Given the amount of polarization in our national political system, how do you plan on cutting through the divisive rhetoric to get things done as a legislator in our state?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Of course.
Thank you.
Given the amount of polarization in our national political system, how do you plan on cutting through the divisive rhetoric to get things done as a legislator in our state?
As a forensic psychologist, I know how to read people, to figure out what they want, what they need. And when you negotiate, you figure out not what you need first, but what is it that the other person needs, and then you find compromise. I disagree with my opponent, Mr. Adler, that a Green would not have the power. I believe that he would remember there is a power of one, there is a power of the minority. Minority voices are listened to, because as there are more minority voices, there will be more people seeking them out from the Republicans and the Democrats. And while these are fine young men, the Republicans and the Democrats continue to fail. And if we vote Republican or Democrat, we are voting for, as Ralph Nader would say, not the lesser of two evils, but the evil of two lessers. We need a fresh view. We need a view with new ideas. Bringing a new banking system into the state, create a state bank to hold funds within the state. There are plenty of things that we can do to revive our economy.
Thank you, Ms. Leveille. Mr. MacLachlan.
Thank you. Questions of bipartisanship. How do you cut through the mire? Well, let me tell you, despite what may be going on in Washington, we actually get things done in the state of Connecticut. I don't know if you remember, but not too long ago, Governor Malloy attempted in his executive order to gut all of the Shoreline's municipal aid, all of our town's educational cost sharing, money for Shoreline East, the 9-town transit gone. And we didn't play games. It took a while, but leaders like Melissa Gebrin, running to be your Senate, got together with folks from the other side of the aisle, leaders across the other side of the aisle, with legislators from both sides. And we came up with a veto-proof bipartisan budget that restored educational cost sharing to our communities, that created a working ECS formula that treats our towns fairly instead of prioritizing the cities arbitrarily. We put money back for the 9-town transit so folks can get to work. We put money back into Shoreline East so that we have a working rail system. And now there's enough money in the Special Transportation Fund to afford improvements to the Clinton train station, which the DOT has committed to doing. So that's bipartisanship. And if you want more of that, please send me back to work for you, because that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MacLachlan. Mr. Adler.
Yes, sure. So most of my friends in town are Republican, and they still invite me to parties, so that's a questionable choice on their part, but nonetheless hopefully indicates a little bit of the fact that I really don't choose to socialize, talk, philosophize with anyone depending on their party. It's all about, first of all, our children, and then second of all, about policy. What do we need to do to make things right? And the past Democratic, Republican, unaffiliated, and union leadership in the state have failed Connecticut. But I don't think anyone who's standing at this table who's not an incumbent fits in that group. I'd like to add a couple of things. I do think it's a great example to bring up Ralph Nader. I think that he is an incredible mind, but elections have consequences, and choices for whom you vote have consequences, and I'll leave it at that. The new formula, ECS formula for town aid, reduces the amount of aid that Clinton and Killingworth get in the next 2 years. There was a 2% cut at one point proposed by my Republican colleague for teachers' salaries that go into their retirement funds, which is great. We will see that money eventually if we can afford to live in the state and the fund doesn't go bankrupt. So I myself, unfortunately, like your grandmother, faced a decreasing salary and increasing costs last year. And also, the bipartisan agreement hasn't solved our problems.
Thank you, Mr. Adler.
So none of our gubernatorial candidates have disclosed a position on criminal justice reform. Do you care to make a comment on this issue?
Sure. We should put violent criminals behind bars, and we should try to keep as many non-violent criminals out of prison. We have a case of systemic, it's a systemic issue where folks who are committed of a non-violent crime now have, red on your ledger, it's very difficult to be reintegrated to society. I know because my father is one of the few small business people that I know. I'm lucky to work with him, who actually hired a lot of folks who had made a mistake in their past, but were looking to turn their lives around. These are folks that I worked with alongside of since I was old enough to carry boxes for my dad's moving company. And so I know it may not be a popular opinion, but I think you do a lot of good things when you try to prevent recidivism by not putting folks away in the first place for nonviolent crimes. You allow more folks to be in the workforce, and it's also a boon to taxpayers because we all pay for that. And so those are my comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Adler?
This is bipartisanship. I agree with everything Jesse just said. It was fantastic, and I think that there could be wide bipartisan agreement. And I do believe one of the few things Governor Malloy has done right is looking to try and limit the amount of folks who go to jail. Working in a school system, I see a lot of kids who struggle because families are divided, kids living with their grandparents or foster parents or on their own. They need assistance that our educational system, due to financing, is not able to give. This is existent both in suburbs as well as in cities. The school to prison pipeline is a real thing, and it is a scary thing. We need more resources in schools. That doesn't necessarily mean more money, it means better spent money. So we have counseling resources, job pipeline resources, so kids have opportunities to make money and that they know about those opportunities early on in their career, so they know why they're learning what they're learning in high school and in elementary school and middle school. I work with students to place them in jobs. The job pipeline that's set up by EB, Electric Boat out in Waterford and New London, is working with Three Rivers or Community College, paying for all the technical skills they need to be trade workers within their company. We need more opportunities like that to reduce our criminal dependence on both for-profit and non-for-profit jails and save the taxpayers money.
Thank you, Mr. Adler.
And Ms. Leveille?
I respectfully disagree with my colleague, Mr. Adler. It is not bipartisanship, it is multi-partisanship. And I think that in a true democracy, having a choice of two parties is really rather pathetic. We need more choices. I do agree with my colleagues that we need not to imprison people for nonviolent crimes. It costs you $60,000 a year to house a nonviolent offender in low-level prisons. I work with the court systems on a regular basis, and I see people who are in revolving doors. And one of the things that we know is that people who cannot read go to jail. We need earlier intervention in our reading programs. People who have drug problems, smoke marijuana, go to jail. We need to, and I think this is probably politically dangerous, we need to consider our criminalization of marijuana, and perhaps we need to go far and consider legalization. We need to make reasonable decisions with lots of education and treatment support to take away the incorrect pathways for low-level offenders.
Thank you. We will now allow candidates their 90-second closing statements, starting with Mr. Adler.
Hold on, just 1 second. What are you gonna do? Tons apparently. No, not good. But don't have it. So what are you gonna do? So thinking on my feet is probably a good thing to have, but I will continue to look for it. So, I believe that how one runs a campaign is indicative of how they will serve you in office. I want you to ask yourselves, who has knocked on thousands of doors this political season? Who has talked to you and your neighbors to ask what your hopes and dreams are? Who has gone to your committee meetings? Who has talked to leadership in Hartford to make sure that leadership positions might be available once there? Who has negotiated a contract fair to both town and union? I've done all these things. I've been on the ground. Signs and rhetoric are not enough. We need doers. We need people who are willing to do the work necessary to reach across the aisle, to knock on Republican, Democrat, Green Party, unaffiliated doors. We need someone who, and I will stand with the correction I've been given by my wonderful opponent, nonpartisans going up to Hartford. I'm ready to do that. I've proven I'm ready to do that. As a school counselor, I've advocated for my children that I work with, gotten them jobs, gotten them into college, found affordable ways for them and their families to go the routes that they need to go. I'm ready to serve you, to hit the ground running on day one, and I ask for your support on November 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Adler. And Ms. Leveille.
Thank you very much. I've not walked the streets. However, I have made my views very clear. And I have been available at various forums. I have brought to the attention the issues regarding preserving our shoreline waterways. I am concerned. I have foresight and wisdom. I am older than either of my colleagues. And I have wisdom to be able to see down into the future. As we get older, we have more generational experience. And I see that the economic inequality that has arisen in Connecticut is eroding people's morale, is forcing people to be disenchanted, to leave, and people who have low morale don't work hard. We need to be able to give people opportunities for hope, and I will do that by being able to end regressive taxes. Right now, people who are in the working class pay 24% of their incomes in total taxes. People in the middle class pay 12%. And people who we would consider very wealthy pay less than 6%.
Thank you very much. And Mr. MacLachlan.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again to the Morgan Political Club. You guys are so impressive and have very bright futures ahead of you. Thank you, all of you, for taking time out of your nights, your evenings to come and engage in some civic discourse. And my opponents, thank you for everything you guys have done. It's not easy. Running for office is not for the faint of heart, as any local leader here knows. And we need folks to step up to the plate, because Connecticut is facing and continues to face very serious problems that we all know very well. Folks need a state that they can actually afford to live in. Doing this is my way of trying to give back to a community that has shown tremendous love, generosity, and welcomingness to me and my family. And it's been a tremendous honor to try to do my part, to pick up a shovel and try to do my small part to make our state a more affordable place for people to find work, start a family, and hopefully retire here. I'd love to ask for your consideration on Election Day. It would be such a joy to continue working for you. We have many problems in this state, and I'm committed to providing and proposing solutions that make our state an affordable and continuously beautiful place to live. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. MacLachlan, and thank you to all the candidates for participating in our open and honest forum. And thank you guys for attending. In a few minutes, we'll be starting our state Senate debate.